There's a link here to the Project Side Chick videos.
How do you know I'm gonna do that?
Dude, work with me. People say that and then somebody adds it later, dude. Come on, you're killing me. There will be a link.
I started to look up here. I'm like, where is it? Welcome, the S38 Fire Team. I am your host with the least, Dre Zoom, and we have a special episode here today. I am flanked by the other members of the S38 Fire Team. Normally, we are hundreds, if not thousands of miles apart. But Adam, say hello from here.
Hello, I'm usually in Slick Top City, Arizona, but today I am in Southern Maryland.
Brooklyn here. These gentlemen, these kings, these Marines are in my home, and we are happy to host.
Okay, let's get the formalities out of the way. T-shirt wars, where are we at? I got the company shirt on. I think this is a reuse for me, but you know, it's getting expensive keeping up with you guys. Brooklyn, what do you got on? Turn around, show the people
I'm winning this one with the Brumos Museum Porsche.
Yeah, there you go.
Exhibit. I don't know. Don't want to.
You're good.
Show you what we got here.
And go ahead.
No, I was going to say this shirt gets me stopped a lot. People like to talk about it, but continue.
I have the venerable AE86.
Your first car.
My first car.
I think that shirt's a little late. You're a couple episodes off. You should have sprung that on the.
It was still in the mail.
The Torino is never late.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna do this collectively as a group together, which is something that we haven't had the chance to do before. We also would like to say thank you and appreciate the love. The last video got a decent amount of likes and views, so thank you guys for that. This is our 11th episode, so this is becoming a thing, right?
It is a thing. We're damn near syndicated like Seinfeld.
Adam, happy that you could make it all the way over here. You are obviously the furthest person away, so we're always blessed to be in your presence. But the reason why we are all here at the same place at the same time is because of a little shindig that Brooklyn puts on, colloquially known as Solomon's Weekend, right?
Solomon's
Saturday
Social.
Yeah, Saturday's social, triple S there. But it is a time that we can take advantage of to be able to do this. And we can also, because of the machinery that is present, one of those cars, as you guys know, we're BMW guys, is the BMW E30, which we had in spades this weekend. But the E30, right, with all due respect, has always been a bit of a conundrum for a guy like me because I'm a E28 guy. Adam's an E28 guy. Brooklyn's an E24 guy. And, you know, as of late and recently, and, you know, I'm going to put an asterisk by Adam's name at least, the E30's never really been on the radar for us. It's never really been there for me. But we would like to take an episode to really kind of get into the weeds about what we think about E30s because we've had some experience driving them, right?
Oh, yeah, especially this weekend.
Yep. And Adam, the asterisk that's by your name is because you actually own a couple or have owned a couple E30s, right?
Yeah, I've owned three so far. 2004, 2008, and I believe 2011. I purchased E30s. They were all sort of different, and they all had their own personality, and I enjoyed them in their own way.
Yeah, the E30 has always been. It was like the 80s yuppie mobile. That's how it really kind of came to the American market. A big step up from the E21, you know, which was just, you know, the 320i, and just design wise, it was just such a huge step. It really, like, I think, solidified BMW in the American market. We'll just get right into it. Brooklyn, you have been the steward of Project Side Chick. We've kind of touched on it before, and we can say that now with a straight face without fear of getting called out. But Project Side Chick's been in your stewardship. Where are you at with E30s? You guys, I know that both of you guys are over 6 feet tall. I know that because you guys always remind me that you're over 6 feet tall. Let's start off. Are you fitting inside the E30?
All right, so as you can see by the way we're sitting here now, if you're watching this instead of listening to it, Adam and I are around the same height. I'm 6'4", I think he might be 6'5", but we have different torso ranges. So he's always been an E30 guy, and he somehow fits better in an E30. In fact, when I first met him, I drove his E30, he was driving my E36 and whatever. Anyway, I always thought I didn't really fit well in an E30. Project Side Chick was delivered to me some weeks ago by Dr. Danger Dan, who owns Project Side Chick, which is our 1990 BMW 325 IS. It's Alpine white over gray leather. I fit well in the car when the seats are properly adjusted. And so it has changed my mind about E30s, which I usually dismissed. I drive an E24, I drive an E31, an E39, an E36. I fit well in those. I like to drive what I fit well in. But Project Side Chick has been eye-opening. At 6'4", I do fit in an E30, and that opens it up for me to now consider E30s for the fleet.
Yeah, I mean, size matters, right? You can't fit in it, then you can't really enjoy it. And Adam, we're going to come back to you in terms of size and what you can and can't fit in, because we had an interesting time squeezing into a 911. But that's another episode. Another day. At any rate, Adam, your experiences with your E30s, let me know if I'm overstepping my boundaries here, but you're not currently driving your E30s or your E30 that you have, right?
No.
So you're really, I'm going to back you into a wall here, paint you into a corner. You're really kind of, and this is the way I kind of look at it. I'm like, E30s are just really I don't want to call it a gateway drug, but I think the sweet spot is really the E28, E24. Do you kind of feel that way, where you really kind of graduated from E30s? I don't see you pursuing E30s here recently.
No, that's a great point. I did. My first BMW was an E30, and actually, I think my first and second BMWs were E30s, and then I ended up getting an E28. And the E30s were terrific. They are great to learn on.
Yeah,
they have great driving dynamics. I was a skinnier individual at the time, so I fit even better in them at the time. And they have great driving dynamics, and that's what I was looking for at the time. Also at the time, the bulletin board forums were very popular, and there were some very popular E30 forums that really kept me entertained when I wasn't driving, and were a wealth of information. So
what were some of those forums, if you don't mind me asking? Can you name some?
There's Rev Limited. There was a one called Bimmerworks, which was sort of run by E30 guys, and I think there was some regional E30 boards as well. But Rev Limited was probably the top one. I think E30zone.co.uk was one. Yeah. So there was a wealth of information, and there were literally no mysteries with these cars, and that was the best part, because if something broke, you could search it up on the forum, and you're going to get your question answered.
Yeah. And that's the E30. I think is it's the Civic for BMW, right? Like how Honda has the Honda Civic. There's it's the Mustang, as the Mustang is the Ford in terms of aftermarket support. And like you said, they've been gone through front, back. I mean, people are probably building them from scratch now, and you could probably buy an E30 shell if you really look hard enough. Now, personally, I've always thought that the E30 was more of like I said, it's more of a gateway drug. It's more of a lead in to other things BMW. Our good friend is actually of the opposite. He has regressed, is what I'm going to call it. Not to really talk about another man's garage, but I know that he's owned E24s and E28s, and he always comes back to the E30s. My M5 E28 M5 is plenty potent, right? It's very well dialed in, and it has everything. It's very satisfying to drive in the twisties. I will tell you that, even me driving at 9/10, there's two certain E30s that will outrun me every single time, and, pound for pound, those cars are really built just the size and the way that the balance and everything, it has a degree of just responsiveness. Spills is E30, which we're going to talk about here in a sec. Is he has an M20, makes less power than the S38, but he's quicker, he's faster, and the twisties. So as a person who does not like to lose, I have now said, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So it's I don't like that feeling at all. Brooklyn, you drove Spills' E30. Talk to us about that experience, even though it was limited.
I'd like to interject and point out the time that you drove the E30 M3.
Yes, when we were in West Virginia. When I drove the E30 M3, which is 4-cylinder engine, it's world renowned, one of the most famous BMWs in history, one of the most popular BMWs in history. A halo car for BMW,
both on the street and the track.
On the street and the track, literally a legendary car. Possibly the legendary BMW. And I was unimpressed. What BMW does best, and I own an E36 M3 with a 3-liter inline 6 engine. I own an E39 M5 with a 5-liter V8. I own an 850i 6-speed with a 5-liter V12. BMW makes great engines. What BMW does best is the inline 6-cylinder engine. Engines like the M20 in the 325IS from the E30 spec. Engines like all of the M3 engines of the E36, E46, and the M30 in the 535IS, the S38. As our crew is named after, the S38, this engine, 3.5 liter, inline 6 engine. BMW does that best. So when I drove the E30 M3, I was unimpressed. The 4-cylinder engine, you have to really wring it out just to get basic levels of performance. Really not that great for the street. And BMW M compromised because they had to make it a 4-cylinder for that. The racing rules at the time, homologation. So getting back to our friend Lewis, aka Spillner's E30, I drove it yesterday after driving our Project Sidechick for almost a month now, and it was a completely different car. And I was like, these are both 1990 BMW 325 IS cars. Why does this car drive so different? They have the exact same engine. They're both lowered. Sidechick has the more trick suspension in that she has K&W coilovers, a really pricey mod that our friend Dr. Tim Robinson installed. So I did not understand, and it had the M-Tech 2 steering wheel, which I like because I have that in my 1988 M6. And I was like, it can't just be the steering wheel. It was just tighter. And shifting was incredible as well, like a weighted ZHP shift knob. But got back to the house, and Spills said that he installed the ZHP rack from the E46 era BMW 330i, and that makes all the difference. And he said he had an adjustable out back. He had an adjustable trailing arms or adjustable
subframe.
Subframe. So those mods need to be done to Sidechick. Bottom line. We're all taking turns. There's a link here to the Project Sidechick videos.
How do you know I'm gonna do that?
Dude, work with me. People say that and then somebody adds it later, dude. Come on, you're killing me. There will be a link.
I started to look up here. I'm like, where is it?
Have you never watched a YouTube video?
Shameless
I've seen it.
Listen. That car, these cars look like they're the same car in different colors, but that car drives like a totally different automobile. It's like somebody put a it's almost like someone put an E30, shell over a completely different automobile. And so I was literally confused while I was driving. Like, why does this? There's nothing wrong with side chick, right? So why does main chick drive so much better? So we have three E30s here today. We have side chick that I have custody of, and I've been working on getting to know. First of all, I know more about E30s than I ever have, and I love driving this car. It's super low. Dr. Robinson pancaked it on the ground with the coilovers. You can and Danger Dan, he messaged me the other day. He's like, "Hey, have you scraped the skull off any squirrels yet?" And I haven't, but it's super duper low. I keep a mallet in the trunk so I can put the spoiler back on if it gets scraped off. So the E30 325 IS. Oh, we also have Danger Dan's car, Mando. Mando is a project, not a project. It's Dan's car. It's a silver. What color silver is that? Silver.
He's black silver.
It's a silver E30. Also a 1990. Are they all
91? I think this is a 91.
I bet it's a 90. But it's but this one has an S50 from the 1995 BMW E36 M3. I have a 95 M3 myself, and so I actually haven't driven Mando yet, but I will. That car I've seen it in action, and it is like one of the most ultimate E30 mods, because you get way more power than was available in a non-M E30, and the engine's not that heavy. You still maintain the balance, and it makes it a weapon for carving up canyons and rolling the twisties or
more than
that dragon.
More than the E30 M3.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You get all the torque, and you get that classic. Like I said, BMW has been making inline 6-cylinder engines essentially from the beginning, because I believe that the 328 race car of the 1940s was an inline 6, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
I believe so. They've been making it for the better part of 100 years. They're making 6-cylinder engines. To say nothing of the aircraft engines they created when they first started.
Yes. So my point, I think the point that Adam was trying to get across was that as a person that you've driven the E30 M3, and now you've driven varying levels of E30s, or at least had significant exposure to it. Where does the E30 M3 really fall? Let me propose a question.
I've had way more fun in the 325 IS.
Can you let me ask a question first? If you, all things being equal, you have the opportunity for, and I'll ask you gents both, a similar condition E30 M3 or a very, or let me back that up. Let's say it's a little rough around the edges E30 M3 at the requisite price, and a very nice, I'm not going to call it showroom condition, but definitely show field condition 325 IS. Which way are you going?
The way you described it, it sounds like those cars would have a very similar price.
Right. Could be.
And I think we sort of had this conversation with the E28s. We talked about non-M E28s, and we talked about M E28s and comparing those. And I don't think there's any real competition. I think the provenance, the tradition, the legendary status of the E30 M3 wins that competition every time. It has unique body panels, and the fun thing is that all the things we just talked about being done to the non-M E30s, we can also do to the E30 M3.
Yeah, right.
Almost everything.
Okay.
And I would contend, and it's also 5 lug.
Yeah.
So that opens up your wheel possibilities as well. Whereas the non-M E30s are 4 lug.
4 lug. Yeah.
So all that being said, it's a no-brainer for me. I would pick the E30 M3. I think that's where I'm really at. I like the E30 M3, but I will
most certainly not kick a properly, I'm a four-door guy, so I'm going to get back on the hunt for if somebody got one out there, send me a link. A nice four-door E30.
Really?
And yeah, I mean,
Really?
You know, I like four doors.
I know that you're a sedan guy, but I'm surprised that you would
Actually, let me walk that back.
Let me finish. I'm surprised that you would go for the much uglier four-door E30 sedan.
Listen,
Then
sometimes you just got to be the wingman, right? You just got to take the. I'll tell you this: a nice four-door E30R. I don't want to call it more rare, but you don't see them as often as you do the coupe. So it's one of those things, it's got to be the right price, the right location, the right condition, So
I've never seen an E30 sedan that.
Well, you can't
better.
get a 325 IS sedan, can you?
No,
I think it only comes in 325i guys. Yes. So somebody would.
But you can do all of the. You can do all of the mods. Like they had M-Tech sedans. Because they had M-Tech convertibles.
They had M-Tech sedans. I do believe you can get an M-Tech sedan.
It's just a much uglier car.
As we talked about, it's the Honda Civic and Ford Mustang for BMW. You can do every and anything too, and you can get them actually relatively cheap. You just got to put a little bit more money into it.
You can get what cheap?
You can get an E30. I mean.
Well, but what about E30 tax? I thought there was an E30 tax.
It's a thing. Well, you're going to pay for a nice one, right? So the tax is going to come in. You're going to pay for a nice one. I don't think there are any low mileage E30s around there anymore, but there are certainly ones that have been reconditioned or are in good condition. And one thing about E30s is, I'm always looking for looking for cars that are for sale, whether it's Marketplace, Craigslist, or Bring a Trailer, whatever.
It's for sale, not on sale.
That too. One thing about E30s, they're almost, you can tell they have been used and driven by previous owners. It's not like you run into these, and even though E39 is a couple years divided away from an E30, where it's like two owners. It's bone stock. Nothing's been done to it.
16,000 miles.
E30s, even the nice condition ones, are still, they've been used. They've been used in I don't want to call it abused, but that's probably the way that it's been intended. Even when I think of the advertising slogan of the ultimate driving machine, it's the 325i that comes to mind. From back when I was a little kid. Even my dad loved them. He always wanted to. He ended up with a 325 IS coupe. He did buy one eventually. He never got it running. Ended up selling it, and the guy he sold it to turned it into a race car. So a great platform for sure. I think that the different, how spicy you want it, whether you want it like super spicy, you want it mild, you want it. Now, Adam, you've had the pleasure, as Brooklyn mentioned, of driving a really spicy E30 over the last couple of days. Give us your impression.
Yeah, just to talk to your point a little bit. My first E30, I had never driven BMWs before, so it was my first experience. I wanted something that was an engaging drive. I got that. It was a good place to be. It had a nice interior. I made some great memories in that car. First time I ever went to the Dragon. I mean, I had no idea that thing ever existed. Went to the Dragon. It's a bone stock E30. Had a ball, right? I delivered pizza in that E30, right? Hilarious, right? So you learn to drive fast when you're delivering pizza because people want their pizza quick.
Okay.
So it was super, super fun. And then that was a mostly stock E30. The next E30 I had was more modified. It was poke and stretched wheels and tires. It was slammed on the ground. It had a very
green hell.
Yes, very memorable paint job. It was copper and just great cars. Finally, I had an iX, a four-wheel drive E30. Great car. Terrific car, handles so much different than the two-wheel drive E30s. I want to give that context because I truly believe that the E30 is like a body in white. You can do whatever you want with that thing.
Yep.
It can be a blank canvas, right? And this is why they were so successful and so popular in World Touring Car Championship. This is why they were so popular and so dominant in Spec E30.
Mm-hmm.
The aftermarket then and now is chock full of options for these cars. You can have whatever you want. We had 3 E30s at the shore yesterday, and they all have different personalities.
Okay.
And maybe I'm weird and I believe this stuff, but I believe that they all have their own separate aura. You know, like even an attitude of the car.
Yeah.
You know, just being there, you can, you know,
Feel
being
it.
next to the car, there's a certain attitude that the one car has compared to the other car. Now, to get to your question, I am driving Mando this weekend, an S50 car that is on very beautiful BBS wheels. All 3 of the cars are on BBS wheels, actually. It's a great combo, and the car rips. It is a terrific combination. My cars that I had were not the most powerful cars. And I think, as you kind of alluded to, maybe the 4-cylinder sort of lets it down a little bit in the power delivery department. This solves that problem.
Yeah, for sure.
It is no longer a problem.
Yeah.
The S50 rips and it pulls to red line and it does everything you want to do. And it's still the same size.
Yeah.
Right. And it still has the same driving dynamics. It's just a little bit more power, which makes all of the difference.
Here's the thing. The M20 that the 325 IS comes with is rated at 168 horsepower. The S50 now in Mando comes with 240 horsepower. That is up. You know, New York school system math. That is a very high percentage bump. When you're doing modifications, people pay a lot of money for an extra 10, 20, 30 horsepower, right? So if you're getting, in this case, you know,
50% more.
yeah, you're getting 50% more, you're getting 70, 80 extra horsepower. It's an impressive difference.
No, it is.
It's an impressive difference. So to your point earlier about whether you go 325 IS or E30 M3, all things being equal, if you're not a purist and you don't mind yanking, you can always preserve it. You can yank the 4-cylinder out, the S14 out, and put it in your garage or something. Some might call it blasphemy, but if you have an S50 or an S52 in your E30 M3, like the sky's the limit. Like the fun you could have, you have the great looks of the car. You know, the hood's closed 99% of the time anyway. But if you could feel that difference, if you could have that balance, I love the look of the E30 M3. But that's all I ever loved about it. I drove it and I did not love the way the car drives, right? I'm also not a race car driver. Maybe our friend Spills does a lot of high performance driving events. So maybe Spills would actually keep the 4-cylinder and enjoy it on a racetrack. I'd love to have an E30 M3 with an S50, S52, maybe even S54. S54 sounds like a little overkill though, because that's a whole bunch of power.
Is there any such thing as too much horsepower?
I mean, no, we live in a world where Hellcats exist, and then people
Exactly.
are like, well, that's not the fast Hellcat. That's only 707 horsepower. I got the jailbreak iPhone 16 Hellcat, which with you know, Max Pro with 900 horsepower, and I'm gonna mod it more, you know, and tune it. So yes, an S54 E30 M3 would be nuts and would be super duper fun and still maintain normally aspirated. Although, full disclosure, I am not against turbocharging. Our friend, the judge, had a turbocharged 535 IS that is one of the most face-melting, outrageous automobiles I've ever driven in my life, and driven a lot of very fast cars. So yeah, actually, this is a wonderful topic. I'm enjoying this, and it's great. Again, it's great to have you guys. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, it you know, just to really to circle it back around with the E30, I think that it's a vehicle that when people see it, it brings them, especially like maybe that generation that brings them back, where they can say, oh, I remember, my neighbor had one, or my dad had one and he loved that car. And, and it's same thing with the E28s and the E24s, and as we like to call the Holy Trinity. But it's nice to be able to drive around and bring history to people and bring back memories for people. And then the added bonus is that you get to drive, you get to deliver pizza, which Adam's delivering pizza comes up a lot when we have these podcasts, but that's another
He's
story.
delivered pizza in plenty of countries. It's just, it's interesting.
It's some kind of weird superpower.
Traveling pizza assassin.
It's actually his kink is what it is. He likes
No, I get paid.
Oh yes, here's the pizza.
I get paid to drive like a maniac.
God, I love the pizza.
What is wrong with that? Nothing.
There's
You get paid
nothing
to
wrong
drive
with
like
it.
a maniac.
It's just like we're down in Ecuador, and he's like, last week I was delivering pizzas,
Right.
So, but it's you get to, drive to work, go to work, take the kids to school. It's usable, right?
Absolutely.
Dan's and had his whole entire family in there, one vintage.
Yeah.
So it's even in coupe form. It's not like the 911, which Adam and myself, we had to, we were lathering each other up with CLP and shoving each other in there, and then we had to like open the door and turn the corner to get back out. So point being, it's a usable car. It's a classic car. It's relatively affordable depending on the
As far as classic cars go, yes.
Cars go. And I think it's, Adam, now you tell me, is it, I've found, and this is because I've just had to work on it a lot, I found my E28 very simple to work on. Once I got over the hurdles of things that were difficult, which kind of kills my whole point, but the E30 is in the same vein, right?
I would agree. I would agree. At the time, I wasn't very experienced with the wrenches when I got my E30.
You are now.
Look at you now.
I am now,
You are the
and
wolf.
I don't want to say that I had to, but as with a lot of these vintage cars, you're going to get the vintage car, and there's some deferred maintenance.
No,
Right.
of course.
And in particular, the M20, while a great drivetrain or a great engine, it does have a timing belt that needs to be addressed on a regular basis. All right.
How often?
5 years or 60,000 miles, I think, is typical. Okay.
Cool.
Now, that 60,000 miles can go by pretty quick if you're
Yeah.
delivering pizza or whatever. But, that was not super difficult. Now, the one styling cue that you guys seem to love so much, the reverse opening hood, does kind of get in the way of that because the timing belt is at the front of the engine, right? So that makes it a little fiddly. But
Well, you can remove the hood while you're doing maintenance.
you sure can. But I mean,
A little
if you're by
bit of
yourself,
a hassle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah, if you're by yourself in your garage,
more.
you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
All that being said, it is a very easy car to get into, to drive, to work on, and to enjoy. So
Episode idea: we all buy E30s and fix them up, and then race them against each other. That would be great, but there's so many E30s in the crew already. Yeah, we would. There's so many E30s in the crew already. I think an S50 or even an S54 E30 four-door. I think that would really suit me well. I'd like it to be red. So somebody got one out there, let me know.
S54
Yeah.
red.
Again, I don't know if.
What about wagon? What do you feel about E30 wagons? Because I feel like you get the feel of, you get the four doors that you love so much.
Yeah, a touring would be pretty clutch. The problem with the Tourings is I think they are really prone to rust in the hatch area, or is that the E39 I'm thinking of?
I think
Or E34.
I think that's more a product of where they were.
Okay. Yeah, you can
But it is common.
I would, well, again, it's the kind of thing where I'm not kicking anybody out of bed for if I go back to Jacksonville and I'm at Cars and Coffee and this guy's like, oh, I'm thinking about that, and it's a wagon and it's in good condition and it's priced right, I'm gonna take. And I think a lot of the wagons came with the anemic M42.
Yeah, like 1.8 liter.
Yeah, it's just so you really have to have a
But you're
plan.
gonna swap it anyway.
You'd
gonna throw an S50 at that.
You'd have to have a plan to really commit to a wagon. So it sounds like a lot of mission creep. I don't mind buying a ready.
But the M20 is good power. I've really been
But I
enjoying the
think the
power
wagons.
flip
Do the
top.
wagons come with the M20?
Yeah, of course they
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, they come
You could get it with you, but like you said, a lot of the
wagons
imports are
were the
318s,
318s, yeah.
and you have to do a swap.
And so then, and that's why you see them, a lot of them bagged in stance, because they're definitely not going fast. So you might as well just look good, you know. But yeah, E30s I think have found a resurgence. We're gonna owe that to Spills for sure. I mean, in the crew alone, we've got probably a half a dozen E30s.
Easily.
You know, something that he kind of brought up, but we didn't really talk about, is that, like you just said, there are several different body styles. We have the convertible, we have the 2-door, we have the 4-door, we have a wagon. I believe there was even a Bauer. Yeah. There's even a Bauer for those people that are into that. No hate.
I'd rather
do not kink shame.
deliver.
Don't kink shame
rather
your
deliver
fellow
pizza.
But
automobile.
What I'm saying is, and then you got the E30 M3, which you should consider a different body style because it does have different body panels.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, and the E30 M3 convertible.
I was going to mention that. Your guns. E30
anyway,
M3 convertible is a thing.
All of those are terrific cars. They're all terrific cars.
Yeah, the touring would be a great look. So I mean, it's all thumbs up here across the board. Brooklyn, I think that we're staring at the back end on this, but just again, I started by saying you're in stewardship of the E30 right now. Just give us a rundown, and if I'm spoiling your episode of Side Chick, what's the prognosis? Where are we going? I know you kind of touched on it, but give us a definitive list of where you're going with Side Chick before you hand it over.
Okay, so boom. What I feel with Side Chick right now, I already have the skid plate. I'm doing the skid plate. I'm going to see about ordering this steering rack because, what I planned before this weekend was skid plate. There is a I'm not a radio person. I've driven a lot of cars that I've owned. I've driven them without ever turning the radio on, because when you're driving BMWs, especially, I have 3 BMW M's in my collection, and the engine sounds, the dynamics of the car, you don't really need music. I'm not an audiophile or any other kind of file. So,
dude, come on. Keep going.
Well, the radio in the car I don't like, and it doesn't fit the aesthetic of a 1990 BMW of any kind. So I'm probably going to take that out. The interior is nice. The exterior is nice. The wheels, it has the BBS RSs on it that are amazing. So we need to do something about the tires are losing air. That's either valve stems or beads. I'm going to probably put some new tires on it this week, or at least take it to a tire shop and make sure everything is good with the tires. I plan to install that skid plate, but now that I'm eyeing the ZHP E46 steering rack, the skid plate gets drilled into the rack. So I'm going to wait until we change the rack to install the skid plate, or I'd have to do that work twice. Other than that, so I want the car to drive even better. It drives great now, but now that I've driven Spills E30 Madeline, now I know how much better it can drive. You know, you don't know what you know. Don Rumsfeld, known unknowns, unknown unknowns. So there were some unknown unknowns that are now known knowns, and we're gonna address that. I don't know.
Unknown? Oh no.
I don't know what I don't know what the guys are planning, and they won't tell me what they're planning for their stewardship of Side Chick. But hopefully, I step on their toes and take really. So the goal is to get it, improve the car, pass it on to the next king, have him improve the car, and pass it on more. Which one are you getting it next?
That's even a secret.
Oh,
I think it's dealer's choice, actually.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I send it to whoever I get it to whoever I want to get it to next. So that's fair.
Making up the rules as we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so definitely from a performance perspective, what needs to happen with the car is steering rack, skid plate. Winter is coming, to quote Edward Stark, and so it needs it has summer performance tires, it needs some all-season tires because it's already getting wet around here. So yeah, I have some and more things will, you know, more shall be revealed.
Okay, Adam, have you been convinced to get back into an E30 or resurrect your E30?
Oh, wow. That is a very loaded question. We kind of talked about that last night. We were talking about the copper E30 and the unfortunate circumstances behind.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Behind leaving that car behind. I really love that car a lot, and
It's probably
that
a
was
fan by now.
that was in 2012. So that car I let go of in 2012. It was a legendary car, and since that moment, I wanted another one. I've wanted
Fire
another
still
one.
burns.
Oh yeah, and I have to admit it's a coupe. The ones that I had were diving board cars. We made it work. There was a really great mod on the copper car where
Shove the bumpers back in.
yeah, you could shove the bumpers in, and then you could use the trim from the rear bumper on the front bumper, so you could have like a, you know, very clean looking front end. And then of course the suspension, you know, suspension and brakes and stuff like that was key for that car.
Were all three of your E30s coupes?
Yes.
So, question though, how did you said the E30 was your first and second BMW. How did you get into BMWs? And how did that come up?
That's a great question, Greg.
Okay, so
That's why I asked.
this is a great story. My origin story, my BMW origin story is that in 2004, I was driving a 79 Suburban with a stick. Okay, and this truck was a two-wheel drive truck. I drove it in New York through several winters, never got stuck. It was a great truck. Okay, but back then, gas got crazy at $2 a gallon, and the Suburban was thirsty. So I needed something that was a little smaller. I was getting ready to go to the career course in
Quantico?
no, in Jacksonville.
Did you deliver pizzas in the Suburban? Because
No,
you're
absolutely
giving
not.
away money at that
No,
point.
absolutely not.
Oh.
So anyway, I was gonna have a little bit of a commute between places in Cherry Point, about an hour commute, and the Suburban would have bankrupted me. All that being said, we were looking for a lively small car for me to drive, right? And Heather happened to be coming home from the hospital one day, and she spotted the E30 on the side of the road. She says, "I think this is a cool car. You should go check it out." I was looking at
Little did she know.
Things that never happened.
I was looking at the old Supras. I think it was the Mark III Supra.
Mark III Supers, yep.
I was looking
I love
at there were several other cars that I was looking at, but everything was classic. I wanted something with good driving dynamics, semi-small, easy to work on, good looking.
Because your first car was an AE86, and
Right.
I think that made that
I
happen.
wanted to relive that. I think that wasn't exactly what I was aiming for, but
It was the spirit.
yes.
Yeah.
So we found that car. I test drove it. It had a very nice interior. It had black pleather interior, which Heather loved. So that was a selling point for her. It was small. I think it was $2,900.
Really?
Yeah. We purchased it,
It was a
and
325i.
it was an E.
325.
It was an Etta, and
Etta.
it was an Etta, and it was bronzed. And imagine my disdain when the first thing I do when I go to the boards is see that the Etta and the bronze is the lowest, lowest combination of E30 on the planet.
Only thing worse if it was automatic.
Right, absolutely. So all that being said, that's where my E30 or my BMW origin story began.
Nice.
And like I said, it was just a whole new world. And obviously you guys know that, you know, it's become sort of an obsession with me, much to my wife's chagrin, but this is all her fault. In a good way, I mean, I would have never met you two, obviously, if I hadn't gotten that E30, along with all the other great people that I've met over the years, and all the adventures that I've had, and all of the cool things that I've done. So
well, that's
no regrets.
Yeah, that's great. I always wondered that, and like I said, it's a gateway drug. You know, it's a lead in. It's getting your foot in the door. That's where, and then it can also be the the pinnacle, the highest level of BMW, because like we've talked about Dan and he out of all the cars that he's had, he loves Mando. You know, so it's really, he's come back home, if you want to call it that. But good stuff. Brooklyn, Adam, you guys have made this weekend phenomenal. This is our E30 love episode. We're showing all the love to the E30 people out there. So definitely like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you have an E30, and if you'd like for us to come drive it so we can check it out. We can talk about it. Just give us a ring. We'll do that. These are the services that S38 Fire Team offers. I'm Dre Zone. This is Brooklyn Taylor. This is my man Slick Top City from parts of Arizona, Adam Armour. S38 Fire Team out.